entire shift disappeared within seconds. And above ground, families were waiting outside the mine entrance in absolute terror, waiting for names, waiting for bodies, waiting for confirmation that husbands, brothers, or sons were never coming home. But for miners, this tragedy wasn't shocking, it was inevitable. The mines were designed not for survival, but for profit. The deepest scars of the Industrial Revolution were never felt above the ground. They were buried beneath Britain, miles beneath its cities, beneath its factories, beneath its wealth was a world of darkness. A world so brutal, so suffocating that the men who enter it every morning were never expected to survive old age. Coal miners didn't just work, they endured. 12 hours underground, breathing dust, breathing poison, dragging tons of gold through tunnels, barely enough for human body. Every ship surrounded by explosive gases, collapsing stones, and the constant possibility of being buried alive forever. And yet, despite powering the largest empire on earth, most coal miners remained desperately poor. Broken bodies became normal. Coughing blood became normal. Death eventually became normal. This was the brutal reality of Victorian Britain's coal mine. Now, let's get to where the story became very, very interesting. Victoria coal mine were not tunnels. They were underground labyrinths stretching for miles beneath Britain. Some descended 600 meters into the earth. The deeper the mine became, the hotter they became. The air underground was thick, wet, heavy. Men sweated constantly in temperatures that could become unbearable. Some spent entire shifts crawling on their hands and knees. And this wasn't a temporary hardship. It was a daily life. 6 days a week, year after year, for wages barely enough to survive. Deeper Britain dug coal, a more human life seems to lose its value. Because underground, a single mistake can transform the entire mine into a tomb. Coal powered Britain. Factories, railways, steamships, steel production. The empire poured coal like blood through veins. And miners paid the price for it all. Most workers were paid based on how much coal they extracted, not hourly, not safely. If you slowed down, you earn less. If you are injured, you earn nothing. So miners pushed their body beyond human limits. They swung heavy pickaxes for hours inside suffocating darkness. Coal carts weighing hundreds of kilograms were dragged through mud-filled tunnels. Shoulders were torn apart. Spines bent permanently. Hands became swollen and deformed. Some miners developed twisted legs for years spent encroaching on the ground. Many reached 40 looking like old men, and above ground, mine owners became rich. Entire industrial fortunes were built from coal. Lavish homes rose above Britain, while men below inhaled black dust until their lungs failed. British industrial glory was built on exhausted men, slowly destroying their bodies underground. The mines kill slowly long before they eventually kill instantly. Coal dust entered lungs every single day. Every breath carried poison deeper into the body, and there was no escape. If a miner became too sick to work, his family starved. So many returned underground half alive because poverty was often more terrifying than death itself. But disease was only the beginning because sometimes the mines didn't wait years to kill you. Sometimes they killed everyone at once. The miners feared one thing more than anything else: the explosions. One spark was enough, and suddenly the mine will explode. The blast travels through tunnels like a weapon of war. Men were burned alive in total darkness. Others suffocated as oxygen vanished underground. The explosion was so violent, bodies were invisible to identify. Entire ships disappeared within seconds. And above ground, families were waiting outside the mine entrance in absolute terror, waiting for names, waiting for bodies, waiting for confirmation that husbands, brothers, or sons were never coming home. Then came one of the greatest horror Victorian Britain have ever seen: the Hartley Florian disaster, 1862, Northumberland. The morning began normal as usual. The miners descended underground as they always had. Then suddenly, a massive beam supporting the pumping engine snapped apart. The enormous structure crashed directly onto the mine shaft. The only entrance collapsed. The entire miners were trapped, completely sealed underground. No escape routes, no air, no rescue paths. Above the ground, families gathered in panic. Rescue workers desperately tried to clear the shaft, but the collapse was enormous. Hours passed, then a full day passed, then another day passed. Still no survivor emerged. Underground, the trapped miners slowly ran out of oxygen. Some attempted to pray, others wrote final messages to their family. Many simply waited in the darkness, knowing that death is approaching minute by minute. When rescuers finally reached them, 200 plus miners were dead. Entire generation of families vanished underground together. The horror shocked Britain. Newspaper described scenes so devastating that readers could barely believe them. But for miners, this tragedy wasn't shocking. It was inevitable because everyone underground already understood the truth. The mines were designed not for survival, but for profit. And yet, after the disaster like that of Hartley, many miners returned to the mines, returned underground the very next morning. Because in Victorian Britain, starvation above the ground is more deadly than the mines below it. Now, to understand this kind of desperation that the workers had, we really need to understand the living condition of these miners during those days. Mining communities were trapped. Many families lived entirely under the control of the mining companies. The companies own their houses. The companies control wages. And sometimes the company controls the stores that miners bought food from. If miners protested, they risk losing everything. And despite the danger, many workers earned barely enough to survive. Food was basic, but homes were overcrowded. Entire families depended on one exhausted miner returning home alive every evening. Some don't even return. Now, here is the psychological horror behind all of this. The mines did not just only destroy bodies, they destroyed minds. Imagine spending most of your life underground. No air, no sunlight for the entire day, constant darkness, constant danger, and constant fear. Every strange sound mattered. A crack in the stone, a sudden rumble, or a change in air pressure, all were taken into account because Miners know that death could arrive without warning, and the psychological pressure never truly ended. Because underground, fear had to become normal. If not, you couldn't survive the work. But perhaps the darkest truth of all was that Britain already knew how horrifying the mines were. And for years, nothing changed until the world finally looked down. As the Victorian era progressed, reports about mining conditions began horrifying the public. Investigators entered the mines. What they found shocked Britain. Men half naked in suffocating tunnels, workers coughing black mucus, communities crippled by accident. Social reformers like Lord Shaftesbury pushed Parliament to investigate. Newspapers began exposing the underground nightmare powering Britain's progress. Eventually, reform slowly came. Safety rules improved. Ventilation improved. Mines were forced to create additional exits after the disaster like Hartley. But for countless miners, the change came too late. Their bodies have already paid the price. The industrial, the industrial revolution transformed Britain into a global superpower. Its factories changed the world. Its railway changed civilization forever. Its ships sails across oceans. Its cities exploded with wealth. But beneath it all, we are miners, the forgotten men buried beneath the empire itself. Men who inhaled poison every day. Men who shattered their bodies for survival. Men who entered darkness every morning knowing they might never return. Cold built Britain, but it was human suffering that kept the fire burning. Because deep underground, far from the glory of empire above it, thousands of miners paid for the progress with their lungs and their bodies and with their lives.